Allison, come on up, please.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Yeah, so actually I had a relapse 2 days ago, and my sponsor is on here as well. And I love this topic, self-will, that kind of thing. I've been really bad about reaching out and trying to do the self-will thing on my own. And I'm starting to see that that's obviously not the right way to go. And I've heard that many times, but I think now I've learned that that's really what you should not do. So I really appreciate the topic tonight. And yes, I love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison. We appreciate you guys and your comments, but please keep it to questions. If you have comments, please just keep it to questions. Thank you very much. Norma, come on up, please.
Hi, I'm Norma, alcoholic, and thank you for having this workshop, and I love you both. I just met Ralph this year on Zoom at another meeting, and I didn't know you knew each other. It's great. But what I wanted to say was I don't pray on my knees either. I might have done it once or twice, but I think God just wants me to be sincere. I don't think it matters what position I'm in. And I'm so glad you said that. I think this is what I heard, is that I need to be humble and I need to be focused. And that's the difference. And that made so much sense to me. And then, I always used to say, I still say it, that I don't have to ask God for forgiveness because God never condemned me. But now I know, because of what you just said about the knee, being on the knees thing, is that I probably need to ask God for forgiveness because I take him for granted when I don't, I guess. I don't know why, but does that make sense to you, that I should ask God for forgiveness? Because then I feel like I have a mean God, a revengeful God, when I think that he needs to forgive me. That's the way I've always looked at it. I hope I made sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma.
Steve.
Who wants to take that question?
Steve.
Norma, and I always love seeing you, Norma, and I've known each other for over 25 years now. And you heard me say that I don't pray on my knees, yet I don't rebel at the prospect of being on my knees. So I don't think that God, I don't typically ask God for forgiveness. What I do is acknowledge my weakness sometimes in God's presence and assume that the forgiveness is already there. As our mutual friend Scott says, Norma, that God not only forgives me for what I've done, he loved me while I was doing it. So, but that doesn't relieve me of the responsibility sometimes to humbly acknowledge in God's presence my defects of character or a shortcoming.
Thank you, Norma. Andrew, come on up, please, brother.
Evening, gents. Thank you for your time and for doing what you're doing here, and thank you for your shares at the conference this weekend that were really heartfelt. I came into the recovery on my belly, so get into my knees was a step up. What was left was to pray before I could get to my feet. It says above everything else on page 62, above everything else, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. Then lower down it says, neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. So is Bill really saying here that we're just as powerless over ourself as we are over alcohol and alcoholism? Thank you.
Well, I don't really have to say what Bill is saying. I'm not going to interpret though, but I'll tell you what Ralph's life says. I'm more powerless over myself than over alcohol. Even though alcohol has been relieved, and I'm totally powerless over that, self can't overcome self. And so absolutely. And that's why we are the rest of this process. But yes, self cannot overcome self. And before I get out of here, I just wanted to say, yes, we are definitely encouraging the questions. But Allison, we are glad that you are back and reintroduce yourself to us too. Stay here, baby.
Dave, would you come on up, please?
Yeah, my name is Dave. I'm calling. Thanks, Steve and Ralph. I came on a little late, but that's that third step, and you guys are explaining, your experience on it, and it's just wonderful. Love it. A guy told me one time he was a Catholic, a converted Catholic. I didn't know that at the time. I was in AA, and he told me, he said, "Why don't you memorize that third step prayer?" And hell, I'm there thinking, damn, I've never memorized anything, So I did, but that where it says we offer God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. And I was just thinking that, I was reading back into the first step, because after you do the third step, you're supposed to start on the steps, the rest of the steps. And it says, on the first steps, complete abandoned, and ask his protection with complete abandon and care. And, and I think what that built, I didn't realize that, and which I wish I would have did a little better, build that arch. I wish I would have, not so much that self-will, because oh God, self-will.
Would you wrap it up, please,
Yeah,
brother?
but anyways, I think it's the arch that he was talking about, build with me and do with me as thou wilt. But anyways, yeah, that's Ralph.
Ralph, what?
Recording on.
Hey, Mackenzie Selby, alcoholic. Thanks, Ralph and Steve, for playing your roles today. And I guess my question is, I do have a question. My question is, when one of y'all said that, does this power have my highest and best interest at heart? And I guess my question is, at one point in my sobriety, I really believed that and I felt that, and now I don't. I know logically that it does, and I know I should believe that, and I should feel that way, and I have intervals of it, but I don't really know when it happened, but at some point I shifted from that. And I'm just wondering if you guys have experience with the shift and if you have suggestions on what to do to get back there. And I think I know what you're going to say, but maybe I don't. So there's that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mackenzie. I certainly go through periods where what I'm getting is not what I want. And I think that I fall victim sometimes to and it is so subtle I don't recognize it happening, that after a while I think that if I'm a good AA doobie, right, that if my meeting attendance is good and I'm sponsoring people and I've got service work and I'm checking all the boxes, that subtly I begin to think that my reward will be God will give me what I want. But what Ralph read was he began to talk about those third step promises. There's the line that precedes it is one that has become more important to me over just the last few years. It says, when we sincerely took such a position, apparently my sincerity is important in turning my will and my life over. And that sincerity is tied to the idea that God's got my best interest at heart. It's tied to the idea that it says that that if we kept close to him and performed his work well, he will provide what I need, not what I want, what I need. The interesting thing over time is what I need and what I want become the same thing more often than they ever have, but not always.
I got to share on that one. And again, Mackenzie, you know, and see, I'm gonna get in trouble because my tied for my favorite daughter is here right now, and she's here, and I'm dad, and she's 16. Now she know. Dad don't know what it is for me. I know what it is for me. You know, okay. I can't stand you. I don't like River. I can love you harder and longer than you can be mad at me. And they turn 26 now. See what you were talking about. Mackenzie, I know you. Adolescent phase. Of course you know. You've been getting some stuff. You've been learning some stuff. You guys, everybody that's on here, sometimes we get handicapped with this quest for knowledge. This quest for knowledge and information. Ali, I want you to look at me in my eyes. Sometimes, you know, that can be one of the things that is going to get in my way. I know I'm sponsoring. I'm telling people what's in their best interest. I'm parenting. I'm subtly, without knowing it, I'm God suiting, you know. And so, of course, I know what's best for me. Now, what does that mean? That means I still know what's best for me, and I still stay under the umbrella of daddy. And just stay under, I've known what's best. And guess what? God loved me so much, he won't impose his will on mine. Sometime I'm going to go out and exercise self-will under his roof. Just stay under his roof, Ali. Mackenzie, he got a room for you under his roof. You go to Mackenzie's room, you exercise some self-will up in there. You keep doing what you do. You'll waver and you'll vacillate, but you can't run out of God. At the end of the day, one of the reasons I have a sponsor who's 52 years sober is because he's been down some roads I ain't been down yet. And when I start saying, okay, God, he's going to be, yeah, right, I've been there. Guess what? When I came out the other end of the road, guess who was still there? Don't trip. Human condition.
Thank you, Mackenzie. David E., come on up, please, brother.
David, alcoholic. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
David.
sir.
Sir?
Thank you, Steve and Ralph, for this workshop. My question is, if I get down on my knees and I say the third step prayer, and then I don't start an inventory, am I still in step 2? That's my question.
Well, the book suggests, and my experience confirms, that that when taking that step, there may be a great effect. It may feel really good to take the step, but if not followed by a vigorous course of action, it'll have no permanent effect. So I think it doesn't mean I didn't make a decision, but I think that I've got to execute that decision pretty quickly to get any of the benefits. You know, often I can't tell you how many times during this last several months I will notice as I'm sitting and eating the second sleeve in a box of Girl Scout cookies that I've gained about 12 pounds over the last 8 months. And as I'm sitting there eating those cookies, I will evaluate my problem. The problem is I'm eating too many cookies. The solution is to eat less cookies and to exercise. And as I sit there eating those cookies, I make a decision that Monday, by God, I'm getting with it. Monday, I'm going to start this deal. And I feel better immediately as I sit there eating that second sleeve of cookies, having made that decision. But then it is next Thursday and I have opened a new box of cookies and not a damn thing has changed. And I fall into that shame spiral. And so Yeah, man, I make a decision and feel good about the decision, but the decision does not in itself have any lasting effect for me.
And I'm gonna put it to you like this, Dave. Okay, where you go, Dave? We have something in our reading. It says, half measures avail me what? So that idea, am I still in my second? I don't care. I don't even look at what step I'm landing in. If I have measures and I make a decision, if my only hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual condition, because I do what? I get loaded. I get loaded. So it would be nice to think, am I still in a second step? But I suffer from an illness that only a spiritual experience will conquer. So anything that's not growing is what? Dying.
Thank you, David. Tracy R., come on up, please, with your question.
Hi, thank you, Scott and Ralph. Made a decision to turn our will over in our lives, our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. I was wondering if either of you know, there's a story that I read in the big book. One of the, I think he was one of the founding members of Alcoholics, was an agnostic and couldn't accept that there was a higher power. And he was the one that insisted on as we understood after step 3. And I was wondering if either of you knew which story, because I can't find it. But
we both know, but we've also learned that you start talking history, all we're going to do is get corrected by 32 other people before this is over. But at a minimum, the guy you're talking about is Jim Burwell, and he certainly did share that point of view. But there are other factors that played into the God as I understand him, including the Oxford group positions.
Thank you, Tracy. Martin, come on up, please.
Hi guys, Martin Freifeld, recovered alcoholic. Hi guys, thanks for the presentation. I have a practical question. Steve really hit me talking about being nervous and doing the third step on his knees, and I will admit right here I've done that many, and I was too embarrassed, felt awkward, felt just didn't do it. I sat there with a guy and read it, and listening to you guys tonight, makes me want to go forward the next time it happens. I just did one over Zoom, but hey, I dodged that bullet because you can't hold hands on Zoom. But moving forward, what practical mechanical advice do you have? What should I do? I'm praying to get the courage. What can I do to get moving, to actually reach across the table the next time I'm in that situation and do the third step prayer that way?
Next time I see you, me and you are going to get on the floor and we're going to do a third step prayer holding hands.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, me too, Martin.
Hey, Therese.
So you put yourself on Front Street, Martin. So the next person that sees Martin, get on. He already said that's what he wants to do. It's 300. It was about 245 people that heard him. Anybody that knows Dr. Martin Freifeld, when you see him, since he, okay.
I don't care if it's in the mall or out at the dock there on 7 Mile Beach. Next, you're gonna be praying your ass off, Mark, with a bunch of people.
We're going to be doing the third step prayer at the end of this meeting. Here's an opportunity. I'm going to get on my knees. Sandy I, come on up, please.
Hi there, I'm alcoholic. My name's Sandy. I'm going to try to make this quick. I do have a question. It feels to me like step 3 is about trusting my higher power. And okay, briefly, like when I was a kid, I had some stuff happen to me that I feel as if I was abandoned by my higher power. Like there was no God in the room when that was going on, okay? So it's like I have this background crisis of faith all the time. So it makes a sincere and complete step 3. I'm struggling with that. And I just didn't know if, my question is, have you ever had a crisis of faith that impacted your commitment to the step 3?
Okay, I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to say this to you though, Sandy. Are you adventurous? You're alcoholic, right? Okay, so this ain't about faith in God, right? You giving up on yourself? You want to keep running your life? You willing to try something new? Let's do an experiment. Let's do a third step. Let's get on your knees. Let's do the rest of the steps, and then let's see what happens at the end. You're trying to have something before you do something to get it. You're trying to have faith and trust at a step where we recognize at the third step, we're blocked from the power. Okay? Are you willing to just be open-minded? I'm not, just be open-minded. Take the journey. Let's do an experiment. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's just do an experiment. This ain't about faith. This ain't about trust. This is about Sandy being tired of Sandy getting Sandy results. If Sandy's not tired of getting Sandy results, don't do the third step.
Oh, I'm tired.
Okay. Let's
in many ways, Sandy, and like Ralph, I wouldn't pretend to cavalierly respond to what you have been through. I will tell you that now, rather than faith, it is just a commitment to follow directions in a sense. And I've bought that when you're a kid, or when I was a kid, you buy that paint by numbers, right? And there's a big picture of a dog on the front of that thing, and then it says if you from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and I go, this ain't going to be a damn dog. There's no way this is going to turn into a dog. So I go from 3 to 7 and 7 to 42, and pretty soon I got this thing tied in knots. And we're saying this does not look like it is going the right direction.
Did you try now, Steve?
I've done.
Back to you, Ali.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Kim B, come on up, please.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Ralph. I remember when I was first sober that I had no problem with the first step because I knew I was powerless, and I had no problem with coming to believe that a power could restore me to sanity because I watched it all around me in the meetings, and I saw people recovering. But when it came to making a decision to turn my will and my life over to something that I did not understand, because I don't understand God, and it says, as I understand him. How important is understanding God, and how do you help a person get there when they're struggling with that?
Not important at all. I'm 34 years sober and I don't understand God. Understanding God is, if God is small enough for me to understand, he ain't going to be big enough for me to trust. And so it says, God, as I understand, whatever it is so that's where people get confused. And it's like, so when you hear me and Steve, and I'm going to speak for Steve on this one too. When you hear me say anything where I say God is this and God thinks like, you can feel free to discount it. I'm just saying that for conversational purposes so that we can have an intelligent conversation about something about which I admittedly have this much of an idea about, certainly no understanding. So don't get confused with God as we understand him with, I understand God. He made me. I didn't make him. I would go longer, but we want to get out of here and but because that's a good one. I don't mean to make light of it, but I'm serious about that. That the third step has nothing to do with understanding God. And God, as I understand him, is probably that he ain't me.
Thank you, Fabio. Last questions. If you make it brief, please, brother. Come on up, Fabio.
Hello. Hi, Steve. Ralph, I have a question for you. I'm Fabio. I'm an alcoholic from Toronto, 7 years sober. When I was 1 year sober, I got a response, and I asked my sponsor if I was ready to do it. He said, go ahead, time to getting real service. This guy actually kept relapsing. It took many years to sober up. He's sober now. But discussing this with some of old timers, they told me the main reason why people relapse is because they never did this step 3 properly. I would like your comments on that.
Ralph, you take it. I've been freezing up here, so please go ahead. I didn't hear all the question.
Well, he said somebody told him that Fabio, and again, I'm just, I'm incorrigible because I really don't entertain, what they said questions, because they say a lot. There are many people who've relapsed on this platform. Some of them will tell you they lost their first step. Some of them tell you they didn't do third step. There are some people on this platform that did all 12 steps of relapse. I suffer from an illness that only a spiritual experience to conquer. I really don't spend a lot of time dissecting in a general way. So in fact, I'm gonna stop that conversation. I don't have an opinion on that. When you say that somebody said most people relapse because they didn't do a third step, I don't have an opinion on that. And Fabio, that's just true, because there are a lot of people on here who've relapsed, and if you went to them individually, I guarantee you not everybody's going to say that was the reason. In fact, I relapsed if I hadn't done a first step.
Steve, did you want to jump on that?
I'm in agreement with Ralph. I am much more reticent over the last 20 years to comment on somebody else's situation than I was in the first 10. And because I have seen everything, and I wouldn't pretend that to comment. Says we will share what we have done, and that's kind of what Ralph and I are doing during this. And it's not for me to say that somebody else hasn't done something. Ultimately, I know that I've got to connect to this power greater than myself for me to stay sober. Where that gets clogged up may be different with different folks.